Did you know that 77% of narcissistic personalities reach management positions faster than their more competent peers? Nietzsche identified this exact pattern 150 years ago with his concept of will to power. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your narcissistic colleague keeps getting promoted over you, and more importantly, what you can do about it without sacrificing your integrity. Maybe you've watched in disbelief as that colleague who takes credit for everyone else's work just got another promotion. Perhaps you've sat in meetings where someone with half your expertise but twice your confidence captivated leadership. Or you might be asking yourself why being good at your job matters less than being good at talking about being good at your job. You might remember that project where you did 80% of the work, but your narcissistic colleague presented it to leadership and somehow became the face of its success. Or that time when you proposed an idea in a meeting that was ignored, only to have the office narcissist restate it louder 5 minutes later to enthusiastic approval. The frustration isn't just about recognition, it's about your future. Each promotion they receive instead of you means thousands in lost income, diminished authority, and the psychological toll of watching manipulation rewarded while your authentic contributions go unnoticed. This isn't just your experience. Millions of professionals worldwide are watching narcissistic personalities climb corporate ladders, while more qualified, ethical workers remain stuck. Traditional career advice often fails here because it assumes a meritocracy that simply doesn't exist in many workplaces. Harvard Business Review found that confidence is more strongly correlated with career advancement than competence in 64% of organizations studied. And a Stanford study revealed that employees who spent more time managing their image received promotions 1.5x faster than those who focus primarily on productivity. But what if I told you that Friedrich Nietzsche solved this exact puzzle over a century ago? His concept of will to power doesn't just help you understand why narcissists get promoted, it gives you the philosophical framework to navigate this reality without becoming what you despise. The insights I'm about to share aren't just theories, they're tools that will fundamentally change how you position yourself at work. In the late 1800s, Nietzsche observed that beneath our rational justifications, humans are fundamentally driven by a desire to exercise power and overcome resistance. He wrote in Beyond Good and Evil that this drive is the most fundamental fact of all becoming and development. He saw that social structures weren't designed around truth or merit, but around power displays, which modern psychology would later recognize as a core component of narcissistic personality. Today, we call this narcissistic supply in psychology. But Nietzsche's approach goes deeper than contemporary therapy because it doesn't just identify the pattern. It explains why organizational systems themselves are often designed to reward it. The will to power isn't just about domination. It's about the innate drive to extend one's influence and overcome obstacles. Narcissists have simply weaponized this fundamental human drive. What makes Nietzsche's insight so valuable for today's workplace is that he wasn't making a moral judgment. He was describing reality as it exists. Unlike modern workplace advice that tells you how things should work, Nietzsche tells you how they actually work, and that's the first step toward navigating them successfully. Nietzsche's first insight was that power expression takes many forms. Now, I know this sounds academic, but imagine a corporate chess game where different pieces move in different ways. In this mental chessboard, most employees play as pawns, moving forward slowly, following rules, hoping merit eventually leads to promotion. But narcissists play as queens, moving in any direction, commanding attention, making bold moves that capture everyone's focus. Consider Sarah, a talented analyst who focuses on delivering quality work, believing her results will speak for themselves. Then there's Michael, who produces average work, but spends significant energy ensuring every accomplishment is visible to leaders. When a director position opens, Michael gets it despite Sarah's superior results, not because the company doesn't value quality, but because Michael's power performance was simply more visible. What's happening is that narcissists intuitively understand something Nietzsche identified. Organizations don't just reward productivity, they reward visible demonstrations of power. While you're focused on the work itself, narcissists focus on the perception of their work. A narcissist enters a meeting ready to perform power, interrupting strategically, name-dropping executives, claiming territorial ownership of ideas. They're not playing the same game you are. You're trying to build value. They're trying to capture attention and demonstrate dominance. One executive coach I worked with described watching a narcissistic middle manager prepare for a presentation. While most employees focused on content, this manager rehearsed power signals: where to stand, when to use authoritative gestures, which senior leaders to make eye contact with, and which technical terms would make him appear knowledgeable without requiring deep expertise. So we see how in environments with limited visibility into actual contributions, those who most effectively perform power gain disproportionate influence. I know this is getting deep already. Let me give you a moment to process this. What Nietzsche discovered about power is profound, and it's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about workplace advancement. Are you ready for the next revelation? Nietzsche's second insight was about appearances versus reality. In his work, he explored how humans create masks or personas that signal strength, competence, and value to others. Think of your workplace as a theatre production. While you're backstage meticulously crafting the set and ensuring everything works properly, the narcissist is center stage performing. The audience, in this case leadership, doesn't see the backstage work, they see the performance. I recently spoke with a software developer who couldn't understand why her colleague was promoted to lead engineer, despite frequently introducing bugs that she quietly fixed. During our conversation, she realized that while she was solving problems, her colleague was crafting a narrative about solving problems. He spoke confidently about architectural solutions and innovative approaches while glossing over his mistakes. Leadership, overwhelmed with multiple teams to manage, relied on the performance of competence rather than tracking actual contributions. This theatrical display isn't just about taking credit. Narcissists intuitively understand another Nietzschean truth. Confidence in presentation often outweighs substance in content. They master what Nietzsche would call the aesthetic of power. The way they speak, their posture, their timing, their ability to simplify complex ideas into compelling narratives. A behavioral study at Yale found that presentations delivered with absolute confidence were rated 37% more persuasive than identical content delivered with nuance and acknowledgement of limitations, regardless of actual accuracy. This is why narcissists often use absolutist language. This will definitely work, while experts use cautious language. Based on the data, this approach has a strong probability of success. In most organizations, leaders are overwhelmed with information and responsibilities. They don't have time to deeply evaluate everyone's contribution. They rely on shortcuts, and the most available shortcut is a confident, compelling performance of competence. This is why the narcissist who speaks with absolute certainty about a half-baked idea often prevails over the thoughtful expert who acknowledges complexity and nuance. The mask of unwavering confidence creates what psychologists now call a halo effect, where perceived excellence in one visible area, presentation, creates an assumption of excellence in invisible areas, actual ability. Okay, I need you to stay with me here because what I'm about to share might be difficult to accept, but it's the key to your freedom from this frustrating cycle. Nietzsche's third insight cuts to the heart of why organizations keep promoting narcissists. Our evaluation systems themselves are built to reward the appearance of value over value itself. Imagine a peacock displaying its magnificent feathers to a panel of nearsighted judges. The judges can't see the details or quality of the feathers. They can only see which peacock creates the biggest, boldest display. This is what happens in many promotion processes. Consider the typical performance review. It often begins with self-assessment, where employees document their achievements. Narcissists excel here, describing routine work in grandiose terms, while ethical employees underreport their contributions for fear of seeming arrogant. When managers review 20+ employees, who stands out? The person claiming extraordinary impact. A marketing director I consulted with shared a painful example. Her department had 2 content creators. one who consistently produced high-quality work on time, and another who missed deadlines but loudly celebrated whenever he completed anything. During budget cuts, the reliable performer was let go while the vocal self-promoter was retained. Why? The manager, when pressed for time, relied on who seemed most enthusiastic about their role. Annual reviews, performance evaluations, and promotion committees often rely heavily on visible metrics, self-reported achievements, and the opinions of those with the loudest voices. Narcissists excel in this environment because they understand another Nietzschean principle. Most evaluation systems are themselves performances, where perception management matters more than objective reality. Think about it. Who gets asked to present the department's achievements to upper management? Usually the person who seems most confident and articulate, often the narcissist, not necessarily the person who contributed most significantly. When promotion time comes, who has built relationships with decision makers? Who has made sure every small achievement was visibly communicated upward? Who has shaped the narrative around team successes to center their contributions? The narcissist isn't just playing the game, they're manipulating the scoreboard itself. This next part explains the most liberating aspect of workplace power dynamics. Take a deep breath, because understanding this will change everything about how you approach your career. Nietzsche's fourth insight reveals the hidden cost of narcissistic advancement, what he might call the shadow side of the will to power. Imagine a castle of cards, impressively tall but fundamentally unstable. The narcissist's career often resembles this structure, visually impressive but built on manipulation rather than substance. I've watched this play out with a finance executive who rose quickly through impression management. He dressed impeccably, spoke confidently about market trends using terminology that intimidated colleagues, and took credit for his team's successes. Within 3 years, he rose from analyst to director. But when the company faced a genuine crisis requiring actual expertise, his strategies failed catastrophically. His carefully constructed image collapsed, and he was asked to resign. 2 years later, he's still struggling to find equivalent employment because he lacks substantive references. What Nietzsche understood, and what modern psychology confirms, is that power gained through manipulation creates a particular kind of emptiness. The narcissist's success contains the seeds of its own destruction. First, narcissists rarely build genuine alliances. They create useful relationships, not meaningful ones. When real challenges arise, they find themselves surrounded by people who will applaud their success but won't catch them when they fall. A study of executive failure found that 62% of narcissistic leaders were undermined by former colleagues during crises, compared to only 23% of authentic leaders. As one respondent explained, "I helped him look good for years while he took credit for my work. When he finally needed my genuine support during the company restructuring, I had no motivation to save him." Second, they develop what Nietzsche would call a slave morality relationship with validation. They become dependent on external confirmation of their value. Without constant applause, they experience a devastating emptiness. Research in organizational psychology shows that narcissistic leaders experience 3–4x more anxiety during performance reviews than their non-narcissistic counterparts, despite typically receiving better evaluations. Their self-worth is hostage to others' perceptions. Third, and most critically, they lose connection with the authentic creation of value, what Nietzsche would call master morality, or the genuine exercise of one's capabilities. Their success becomes a hollow performance, rather than a meaningful expression of their human potential. This is why many narcissists who reach leadership positions ultimately fail spectacularly. The same skills that got them promoted, impression management, confidence performance, and attention capture, don't translate to effective leadership, which requires authentic connection, genuine value creation, and the ability to develop others. A 10-year study of executive tenure found that leaders promoted primarily for their self-presentation skills lasted an average of 3.2 years in their roles, while those promoted for demonstrable results averaged 7.4 years. Now, I know this has been a lot to take in. Nietzsche's insights can feel overwhelming at first because they're so much deeper than what we usually hear about workplace dynamics. But this depth is exactly what's going to set you free from the cycle of frustration. Are you ready to learn how? Let's translate Nietzsche's philosophical insights into specific actions you can take starting today. Step 1. Nietzsche believed every human has this fundamental drive. The key is expressing it authentically, rather than surrendering to resentment. The next time you complete a significant task, don't just quietly submit it. Send a brief email to your manager saying, "I've completed the quarterly analysis and found 3 opportunities to increase efficiency by 15%. I'd be happy to present these findings in our next team meeting if that would be valuable." A client who worked in project management applied this approach after being repeatedly overlooked. When she delivered a process improvement that saved 12 hours weekly, instead of just implementing it, she sent a concise email to her director outlining the specific impact. Within 2 weeks, she was invited to join a strategic committee she'd previously been excluded from. The key is owning your contributions without either hiding them or exaggerating them. Don't try to document everything you do in excruciating detail. Just clearly connect your work to its value. Step 2. Use what Nietzsche would call the noble expression of power, making your genuine contributions visible without falling into narcissistic manipulation. In your next meeting, prepare one insightful question or comment in advance. When the moment feels right, begin with, "I've been thinking about this challenge, and I wonder if we might consider." Puis. This signals thoughtful engagement rather than reactive attention-seeking. An engineering manager I worked with felt constantly overshadowed by louder colleagues. We developed a strategy where he prepared one significant observation for each leadership meeting. In the third meeting using this approach, his carefully considered question about scalability revealed a critical flaw in a proposed system. The single moment of strategic visibility did more for his reputation than months of quiet competence. The key is quality over quantity. Don't try to dominate every conversation. Just ensure your most valuable insights aren't lost in the noise. Step 3. Nietzsche understood that power exists in relation to others. Build authentic connections based on mutual value. Identify one colleague whose work complements yours. Today, send them a specific message. "I noticed your approach to the client presentation was really effective. I'm working on something similar for Project X. Could we grab coffee this week to compare notes?" A financial analyst struggling with a narcissistic colleague implemented this strategy by connecting with peers across departments who interacted with her work. She didn't complain about the narcissist. She simply built relationships based on work quality. When a major initiative launched, multiple team members spontaneously credited her contributions, effectively neutralizing the narcissist's attempt to claim sole credit. The key is reciprocity and specificity. Don't try to network with everyone superficially. Focus on building genuine professional relationships where both parties benefit. Step 4. Develop what Nietzsche would call the ability to see through masks, recognizing the difference between performance and substance. In your next team discussion, when a narcissistic colleague makes a grandiose claim, respond with, "That's an interesting perspective. Could you walk us through specifically how that would work in practice?" This gently tests performance against substance. A product manager used this approach with a narcissistic designer who frequently proposed visually impressive but functionally problematic interfaces. Instead of directly challenging him, she would ask, "This looks impressive. Could you talk us through how a user would complete a specific task with this design?" This simple question revealed the practical limitations without creating conflict and gradually built her reputation as someone focused on substance. The key is curiosity rather than confrontation. Don't try to expose or embarrass the narcissist. Simply create space where substance naturally reveals itself. Step 5. Cultivate what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate, the ability to transform workplace challenges into opportunities for growth. The next time a narcissistic colleague takes credit for your work, instead of ruminating on the injustice, ask yourself, How can this situation strengthen my strategic thinking? What can I learn about organizational dynamics from this interaction? A research scientist who repeatedly had ideas appropriated by his lab director started documenting these patterns. Rather than becoming bitter, he used these observations to develop an innovative approach to scientific collaboration that he later published as a widely cited paper. The very behavior that could have defeated him became the foundation for a significant professional contribution. The key is transforming frustration into insight. Don't try to eliminate all negative emotions. Instead, use them as fuel for deeper understanding and strategic growth. Start today by documenting one significant contribution you've made recently and communicating it appropriately to your manager. This week, practice strategic visibility in at least 2 meetings. Over the next month, build 3 reciprocal professional relationships and practice power discernment whenever you encounter narcissistic behavior. Within 3 months, aim to transform at least one frustrating workplace dynamic into a strategic opportunity using philosophical resilience. So what did Nietzsche teach us about navigating workplaces dominated by narcissists? 3 profound insights. First, the will to power drives human behavior in organizations, but it can be expressed either through manipulation or authentic contribution. Second, most evaluation systems reward performance of competence over competence itself. And most importantly, authentic power expression leads to sustainable success, while narcissistic manipulation ultimately leads to isolation and failure. This is why Nietzsche's approach succeeds where conventional career advice often falls short. While traditional guidance assumes meritocracy and tells you to just work harder, Nietzschean philosophy acknowledges the reality of power dynamics and gives you tools to navigate them without compromising your integrity. When you apply Nietzsche's insights to your career development, you don't just survive narcissistic coworkers, you transcend the entire dynamic. You move from frustrated victimhood to philosophical mastery of workplace reality. You develop what Nietzsche would call an Übermensch approach to your career, rising above both naive meritocracy beliefs and manipulative narcissism to create authentic value while ensuring that value is recognized. If Nietzsche's insights into workplace power dynamics resonated with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our community of philosophical healers who are applying timeless wisdom to modern challenges. Tell me in the comments, which of Nietzsche's insights hit you the hardest? The performance of power, the systems that reward display, or the shadow side of narcissistic success? And what aspect of workplace philosophy would you like me to explore next? Perhaps how to maintain integrity in organizations that reward deception, or maybe how to build genuine influence in image-obsessed cultures.